Celtics Beat is brought to you by Prize Picks and the Game Time app.
Hey everybody, welcome in. New Celtics Beat. Great to be here with you. And at least for one night, I mean, I don't know when you're listening. See, it's very rare that we record these shows when the Celtics are in the middle of a back-to-back. I fully recognize we don't have a super long shelf life. And after all that went well against the Magic, maybe everything goes to hell against the Hawks. I don't know. We'll find out. Here's what I do know. In this moment, in this very second that we are sitting here and recording this show, after a stretch of 7 straight alternating wins and losses and 8-7 over the last 15 for the defending champion, wannabe repeat champion Boston Celtics, at least for one moment, the sky is not falling. It's just, and thank goodness for that, because you know what? Heaven forbid these Celtics dropped a second straight, fell to Toronto and Orlando. What might this show sound like right now? Adam Kaufman, Evan Valenti. Dan Greenberg is here with us from Barstool Sports. And Greeny, it's great to have you. It's funny. I said to Ev, we're texting, like, who should we have on the show? He's like, it's been like since November since Greeny was on. Really? Like, it feels crazy. Like yesterday. Maybe that's because you were on my radio show recently, but it was like, I feel like I just taught. And I think I figured it out. And this is probably true of anyone out there watching or listening. If you're, subscribed to the podcast, you're watching on the CLNS YouTube page, wherever it is, you tweet so much.
It's a problem.
And those of us that pay attention to your tweets, as I do, I'll be honest. I mean, I don't read them all, but I do have notifications on when you tweet.
Oh, I'm sorry. Your phone. I must light your phone up.
I mean, it's at least it comes through silently, but I because I don't always get to watch every minute of every Celtics game in real time, and so I want to know what people are saying who either cover the team or around the team or the fan perspective. And certainly when it comes to Celtics fan, I want to know what Greeny thinks. But I think that's what it is. I think it's because I read so many of your tweets that I feel like I just talked to you and that it hasn't been months. So hello and welcome back. How are you?
Hello. Honestly, the only thing I can say coming off last night is like, how cathartic was that? Like, for everybody, for the players, for the fans, like, had they started that game like 1 of 8 or 1 of 7, I think everyone from the players to the arena to the fans at home, like, we were all bracing ourselves just because they've been so Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, or whatever that saying is over the last, month and a half. Last night against a good defense, like, even without their guys, that's still a defense that presents challenges to you in terms of perimeter length, point of attack defense, all the things that give you trouble. They finally looked like the team that we expect and that they've proven to be for the last, 2.5 years, whatever it is. So it's a relief, but it's now like, okay, because of your inconsistency, like, I need to see this level of engagement and execution for a prolonged stretch before I say we're out of these dark days of hell, because there's no other way to explain the piss poor caliber play they've been playing since the Marcus Smart loss on December 7th. This team has been a disaster by their standards, but last night for sure was a step in what you hope is the right direction, I think.
Well, look, I think the broader way of saying what you just said is you went into a game expecting they were going to win and win convincingly, based on what was on the other side, and you're fully healthy. And they did.
Right.
Unlike, obviously, the previous game against the Raptors. Like, I'm someone that, we won't really do betting talk here.
Didn't we just talk about this? They finally covered a double-digit spread.
Well, but like, seriously, in terms of the betting, like, I like to, mess around in the NBA plenty and throw, like, if there are teams that I like, throw together some money line parlays, that type of thing, just for my own amusement, my own entertainment. These aren't get rich type of bets, but after losing on the Celtics specifically in that game against the Raptors, a game that I fully expected based on all the inconsistency and what we've been seeing lately, and you got a terrible team on the other side, like, they're going to go into Toronto and they're going to curb stomp the Raptors. This is going to be a statement win. And not only do you not cover a double-digit spread, you lose. You don't even win. You lose outright. And so going into this game against the Magic, I was having a real sort of inner, and I'm sure you and any of the fans of this team, and hell, maybe some guys in that locker room, members of the coaching staff, front office, whoever, a real just sort of, can I trust them? Can I trust them to go out and do what they are supposed to do? So yeah, when you say cathartic, I didn't need them to win by margin even yesterday. It was go out and win. Just go out and be the team you're supposed to be. And like you said, they blew doors because again, you got a depleted Magic team on the other side. And you've got all your guys, and you wanted to see the bounce back from Tatum, who's been inconsistent, not shooting well lately. You wanted to see Brown wake up a little bit. You wanted to see some of the role guys. You want like even freaking Hauser or Pritchard
just make their looks.
Like just let's see. Like you like to tweet it all the time. People like we all. It's the basketball cliche. Like just had to see one go in. Well, we had to
it's true.
we had like bigger. We had to see this win. We had to see this performance to now go into, and this isn't going to be a game preview because that would be very dated for most listeners probably. But in order to feel good about the game against the Hawks, where you are again a double-digit spread, we needed to see that against the Magic. And so in the spirit of, the cathartic performance, drill it down a little bit. To a man individually out there on the floor. What do you feel like you needed to see against the Magic? Again, one game, 1 of 82, but that you did see.
I mean, I really boil it down to is they just need to be average, play to your standard. I don't need overachievement. You just can't be horrific. I mean, they've had 6 games shooting under 30% from 3 since I think, what is it? The 7th of December. Over their last 21 games, a third of them, they can't even break 30%. Like, that's so hard to do with the caliber of shooting. Like, just be average. Just take care of the basketball. Just play connected. Play with energy. Play with pace. Like, just be normal. And I think up and down the roster, you saw that, right? All of a sudden, Derek White is more engaged. He's starting to see threes go down. He's not hanging his head. You have Jaylen getting back. And I honestly think Mazzulla's switch to the old rotation impacted this because it allowed guys to play the same way they played last season, right? You had Jaylen taking over in the third quarter. When Tatum was resting, he came back in the fourth. You had the early sub for Tatum, so he could come out in the first quarter, play the majority of the second. That's where he did most of his damage with the all-bench lineup. So you had KP hitting you on the post and switches, but also spacing the floor. You had Al Horford hitting his corner threes. You had Drew Holiday finally hitting his corner threes. So it just felt like they got back to playing their standard. And we know their standard is the best standard in the NBA. That's proven. That's not homerism. That's an objective fact. So to me, it was more just like a reminder for them that if they play this way, good things can happen. When they stray from it, when they're careless with the ball, where they don't provide resistance defensively on the perimeter, when they don't rebound, when they don't make their open looks, everybody starts to press, the fans get nervous, the players start to hang their head, and it snowballs. It's contagious, right? Like if one person's in the shooting slump, that's spread. If Tatum and Brown aren't showing the right effort defensively, that spreads. Like these are all very common things that happen to every basketball team on the planet. It's just up to them to work through it and get back to the standard that we know they're capable of. And that's what you saw last night. Just their normal, like they didn't overachieve. It's not like they shot like they made 33s or had some sort of crazy performance. It was legitimately their standard, we're going to space the floor, we're going to move the ball, and we're going to defend. And look what happened.
And let me throw this at you because I know I've been monopolizing this, but Greeny just reminded me of something, and I'm glad he did because I wanted to bring it up. Every time the Celtics struggle, and there's been a lot of it, a lot of inconsistency over the last, almost a month, 3 weeks, whatever it's been, as Greeny's alluded to multiple times, it becomes, and we vent about this on the show all the time. If you listen to the talking heads in mainstream media, national, local, whatever, it becomes a referendum on the way the Celtics play. They're struggling because they're shooting too many threes and all this crap. And it drives me nuts every single time. And that is coming by, like, So people don't confuse me with Greeny's coworker, Cats over there. So people don't think I'm a fraud. I want to be true to myself. People know, like today's NBA, the style, all the 3-point shooting, the Celtics shooting like 55% of their attempts in a game are from three, whatever the hell the number is. Yeah, I don't love it. It's not my favorite. I do long for the NBA that I grew up with. So I'm not going to be a hypocrite when I say that. However, the way they play is not the problem, because
Right.
like Greeny said, they won a championship with it freaking running away from the rest of the NBA last year. That's not the issue. When I have an issue, if I'm looking at Toronto specifically for the sake of a recent example, it's when they look like ass. It's when they look like they don't care. They look like they're trying. You have players like Porzingis coming out and after the game and saying like shit effort. Like that's my problem. When you struggle, when you play like crap, it's not the threes weren't falling.
Correct.
Which, by the way, the players don't say that. That's a media thing. The threes
Correct.
weren't falling. They're taking like it's not working. You got to attack the basket. You got to try something different. No, they don't. Unfortunately, like they don't need to try anything different. What they do works.
Right.
Generally, like overall, generally it works, which is why they're sitting at 29-12 right now, and they're the defending champs, and they're among the favorites to win it again this year. The issue, Evan, is when they go out there and look like they don't give a crap, when they are just in a malaise. That's when they drive me nuts.
Yeah, I get that. And you go back to that Toronto game, and it's the defensive stuff that really drives you crazy. It's the lack of effort on the defensive glass, allowing a ton of offensive rebounds. That stuff drives me crazy. But at the same time, like, this is the one thing I think that's one of the storylines that's bothering the most. Like, isn't winning a ring, doesn't that give you like a little bit of leeway to just be
grace.
like, a little grace, just to like, be like, hey, like, we want this team won a ring last year. They won a title last year. Like, we know this team can do it. I guess that's what makes it annoying. It's like, oh, they're not bringing it like that every night. We know it's hard. It's hard to bring it like that every night. And yeah, when you play Toronto and Toronto's, you look at Kirk Goldsberry's chart and you have Toronto way the hell down here in quadrant number like 3, bottom left, all the way down towards the bottom of the graph, where the worst defense of the past 10 games by any team in the league. When you get beat by that team, like that stinks. That hurts, especially because you should have blown them out. But at the same time, they come back against this Orlando team, a team that's one of the best perimeter defensive teams in the league. Yeah, we know they're missing guys, but still have to use that as a point, and just blew the doors off them in the second half, right? So what's good is, again, and I am going to sit here and I'm sure you both in your conversations with fans and people that you run into and you meet and talk with, people are over the top. Like, I get this all the time. Evan, are they? What's going on this year? It doesn't seem like it's the same. Like, what's going on? I'm like, just calm down. Like, they're going to be fine. They're one of the 3 best teams in the league. Those 3 teams, OKC, Cleveland, and the Celtics, I think are hovering in a significantly different stratosphere than the rest of the NBA. It's clearly those 3 teams and everybody else. Guess what? You're one of the 3 teams. And if you look at yourself, you look at Cleveland in a 7-game series. We've seen this a couple of different times. Yeah, there's a new coach in Cleveland, and Cleveland's playing really well, but you have to have a little bit of confidence that this team could beat them in a 7-game series. And I feel like I'm not hearing that. And what's crazy to me, and Greeny, I'll throw this to you because you deal with way more people on the
I was going to
internet.
say, I'm holding it in. I have gripes, but I'm holding it in.
But it's like, at the end of it all, like, yeah, I know the shit effort against Toronto is annoying, and it is, like, totally get it. But at the same time, I'm like, look, winning a championship is hard. Going back to back is even harder. And this team in particular, just every night, like, not everybody's going to be super jacked up to play. And in Toronto, that was the very obvious, like, not like there was all the rumors that, Tatum and Brown might have been out the night before having some fun in Toronto.
I mean,
have a blast. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm not going to get super upset. It's January basketball. When the trade deadline comes and the All-Star break comes, after the All-Star break, that's when you want to start tuning it up. March, April. Okay. January, we're in this weird, just get me to the All-Star break. Let's have everybody go on vacation for a while. Drew Holiday, just take a nap for a week and a half. Al Horford, put yourself in a cryobaric chamber. Like, I just think, Greeny, we forget that this team won the title last year with one of the most dominant regular seasons we've ever seen. OKC doing it this year. Look at that. And not every year is going to be like that. There's going to be struggles along the way. Just to remember, the Celtics still haven't lost 3 games in a row in over like 2 years here. Like,
right. Well, that's what I was going to say. It's actually like you say, we have the sample. They won the title of our system and their approach being successful. It's longer than that, right? Like, they were pretty damn good making it to Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals, winning 57 games the year before. So it's like we have 2.5 years, including a championship, of scheme being not a non-issue. And I think this is sort of what Kaufman was talking about. And honestly, it's one of the things that gaslights me more than anything else. It's like every time they lose, the only thing you hear or struggle is 3 points volume. They don't adjust, and it triggers me to a level that I didn't know was possible because the data completely contradicts it, right? If you look at just this stretch, and maybe this is because I heard Gasper talking about this the other day, and it sent me over the moon. This idea that like the Celtics don't adjust when the threes aren't falling is just factually inaccurate. If you look at this last 21 game stretch where they've been playing horrific basketball, the percentage of shots that are threes have drastically dipped from like 57 or 56% to 51%. The percentage of 2-point field goals has drastically increased from like 43 to 47, 48%. Post-ups are way up. Elbow touches are way up. Restricted field goal attempts are way up. They're just missing them. So it's like in their loss against, I think it was either Sacramento or Toronto, they shot 44% on 2-point field goals. They are adjusting. They aren't just spamming 50, 55 threes a night. That's not their issue. Their issue is like what Kaufman said. They're not engaged defensively. There's no effort to provide resistance. How many layups are we seeing them give up in these horrific losses, bad turnovers, careless mistakes with the basketball where Derek White is like fumbling an inbounds pass or getting a 5-second call? Like those are the reasons that they're losing, not they take too many threes. It's like, just because Felger says that on every show does not make it the truth. Like you can actually watch them and understand how they play. And I think last night is a perfect example, right? Against Toronto, you had Tatum drawing contact, dishing to a corner three. They miss. That does not make that a bad possession. Last night, Tatum's drawing contact or traffic. Jalen's drawing defenders, kicking to a corner three. It goes in. The scheme is the same. The result is different. That doesn't mean the scheme was good against, the Magic, but bad against the Raptors. It is not based on the result. It's based on the process and how these shots are generated. And it's like, it's baffling to me that we can be 2.5 years into this style, into this system, and that concept is still so hard for people to grasp. They see, 53s, they lost. Well, how were those threes generated? Were they all good looks? Were they just, your best shooters unable to make a wide open three? If that's the case, then there's not a problem with how you're playing. It's just an execution issue. It's just, honestly, it like makes my blood boil because there just seems to be some resistance. It's like everyone is caught in their hot takes of year one of Missoula. And even though they've been proven wrong, they like can't accept it. And you're still hearing the same takes that we heard in 22-23. It makes no sense to me when we have hundreds of games of data, including high leverage playoff games en route to a championship, which is the whole point. All of us three, we're all relatively the same age. We haven't seen this level of consistent winning since the Bird era, right? Like even the Garnett, Pierce, and KG big three did not win to the fashion and to the level that this group wins at. And it's like, instead of acknowledging that, we still want to get hung up on, they take a lot of threes. Haven't you heard? Who gives a shit? They make a ton of threes. And that opens up everything else, which makes them hard to guard. Like, I just can't understand the outrage.
Let's take a quick break. Tell you that today's show is powered by Prize Picks. Prize Picks, it's the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members, billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to everyone. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. You heard me right. 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. You know, Ev, there are so many things that make Prize Picks great. In my opinion, it's all about the flex play. Prize Picks invented the flex play. It means you can still cash out. If your lineup isn't perfect, you can double your money, even if one pick doesn't hit. I mean, truly nobody out there is doing that. I'll give you one great example because this might float just a little under the radar from, you know, the mainstream stuff that people are investing in on Prize Picks this weekend. You know where I made a little money on Prize Picks as we sit here last night, Friday night?
Go for it.
How about the debut of the Unrivaled League, the new women's 3-on-3 league? Yeah, I played a little Prize Picks.
That's the game. That's all it is. You pick more or less and watch the money flow in. And with the NFL playoffs here, Kaufman, it's the best time of year for me because the more or less options get smaller. Derrick Henry, James Cook, Puka Nacua all have to score more than a half a touchdown.
That's pretty good. Getting your money couldn't be any easier. In as little as 15 minutes, you just watch the money roll into your account. Heck, Prize Picks uses Venmo. It's that simple. Download the app today. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app. Code is CLNS. Get $50 instantly after playing your first $5 lineup on Prize Picks. Prize Picks. Run your game. When you hear after the Toronto loss stuff in the locker room about, you know, not just Porzingis again talking about the effort, but White or Mazzulla or guys, you know, talking about the stretch that they've been in and sort of leaving open the door. This is what, again, like, you know, talking heads want to grasp at for the sake of content, leaving open the door of like, is there an issue in the locker room? Is there a disconnection? Is there a, you know, whatever it may be? Does any part of you, and I look, we're equally close to the team, the three of us. You know, none of us are despite this being called Celtics Beat, we're not beat reporters. We're not in the locker room. We don't have relationships with these guys to where we're getting all that inside dirt. And if there is any inside dirt, nobody's writing about it. So, you know, I don't know. Mm-hmm. Either there's a cover up or it doesn't exist. And it's, again, people grasping at straws. But do you feel like there's something that looks off with this group that is largely the same group from last year and winning the title versus obviously last year was all happy-go-lucky because nothing went wrong. Like everybody generally stayed healthy. They won the league, clear 14 games in the regular season, wire to wire in the playoffs, no issues. Like last year was a freaking dream. This year, now there's been just a, you know, kind of a hint of adversity for a few weeks, and they don't definitively look like the class of the NBA. They're in the conversation, but they're not like, yes, of course. Who else would challenge the Celtics? Who could possibly knock them off? Now there's a team in front of them and a team in front of that one over in the Western Conference. Does anything look different to you with this group?
I mean, they just couldn't make a shot. Like, I feel like everyone wants to overanalyze things and like you said, try to come up with some inner locker room turmoil. And like, obviously none of us can say definitively, yes, there is or no, there isn't. But I just look at their struggles on the court were their inability to make an open jump shot. So it's like, it's hard for me to say, oh, there's a rift in the locker room that's sparking some sort of decline when like, I'm still seeing them generate the same open looks. They just weren't going in. So it's like, that happens sometimes. And last year we didn't have a stretch like that. So there wasn't this weird, is there locker room strife? Like, I don't know. Teams go through slumps. They've shot that. Like, did they seem connected to you last night? Yeah. Why? Well, they shot like 46% from three. They saw the ball go in. They weren't hanging their heads. They weren't, you know, dogging it on defense. It's like, if there's an issue in the locker room, how come it didn't prevent them from executing yesterday? So I always like, especially a team like this that has really not had any of those issues for the last 2 or 3 years. It's like, to me, it just seems like people didn't want to go with the boring explanation of, oh, well, they're just not making shots and they're not defending to the level they need to. Instead, it has to be, inner turmoil. This person doesn't like their role. They're tuning out the coach. Well, maybe it's just their best players are in a funk, and Jrue Holiday is shooting 20% from the corner, and Derek White was 9 for 30 from the field over his last handful of games. Like, it's okay to say that can be the only issue. And as soon as that stops happening, they magically look like the team we've always seen. It's like, I don't know. I feel like it's more of an on-court execution issue than an off-the-court locker room turmoil issue, because how they play, they're still passing the ball to each other. They're still, and I think Porzingis, since he's got here, tells the truth. And I think that's what's so refreshing. It's like, he probably hasn't gotten the memo that you don't have to be so honest with the media, because they did play uninspired, lazy, soulless basketball. We all saw it. So it would be lying to be like, yeah, we gave a great effort tonight. No, you didn't. Like, we all saw it. But I don't think that then leads to, they hate each other. No, there's turmoil, there's stress. I don't know. It's a long season. People have shit going on. They're just not making shots, and that bled to other parts of their game. As soon as the ball goes in, none of those things exist. I think that's pretty telling as to what the issue was.
Yeah, it's just, again, watching the ball go through the net a couple of times fixes a lot of problems. And again, at the end of the day, this is the team that, relies on jump shots. I'm not saying they don't, but when they go in, they're unstoppable. So again, we have a lot of evidence of that. I'm gonna pivot here just because at this particular moment in time in the show, we've gone quite a while, and this might be the last topic we have, because I know Greeny's gonna take this one for a bit. So what I'm gonna do here is we're gonna do just like last night, where we had the ball at the top of the key, we spread the floor to one side, we let Jayson Tatum go to work on Cole Anthony, who has no shot guarding Jayson Tatum in the post, and I'm just gonna lob this in for Dan. One of the biggest topics that's causing so much conversation is the usage of Jayson Tatum and Boston's record when it's above a certain number. Now, I happen to agree with Greenberg that it's not just a number that we have to hit for the team to win the basketball game. It's the process by which it all occurs. But Dan, I'm gonna clear out for you here.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah. Go ahead. Take a swig of water.
I had this stat. This feels like a Grandy stat.
It's been accumulating. I think Grady might have had it first, or somebody had. Maybe it's Dick Lipe. I don't know. There's a lot of stat nerds, and I appreciate everybody in the stat nerd category for carrying us this far. But there's a stat out there. Greeny's got it, but he has a little more nuance with it. With the Celtics record, when Jayson Tatum's usage percentage is above 33%, 34%,
something like that. They're like 43-0 or something crazy.
Right. So
35-0, something crazy.
While that's a crazy stat,
do more of that, I guess, right?
Well, that's the point, Grady. Why don't we take the time and you can talk to Kaufman directly, because I'm already on board here.
Okay.
I think you're absolutely correct on this. There's more nuance to this stat than people are thinking about, and I'd like to just clear out, let you have the floor, and explain to us why giving Jayson Tatum the ball a ton might not necessarily be the reason why this team wins so much. So I'm just
so that's not exactly the crux of it. The crux of my issue is that people are disingenuously using this statistic. They're trying to use it. They're struggling with the grasp that correlation does not equal causation, right? When people think of usage and usage percentage, all right, this is going to, like, you have to use the same word 10 million times, but usage percentage is being categorized as how much Jayson Tatum has the ball, right? And like the idea that for the Celtics to be successful, he needs to have the ball more to increase his usage percentage, which isn't really what usage percentage calculates, because here's the crux of the entire issue. These usage percentage, weirdos only want Jayson Tatum to have the ball and only want Jayson Tatum to initiate. Okay, great. He's awesome at it. We can all agree that Jayson Tatum having the ball is a good thing because he's really, really good. However, if there are possessions where they maybe run a high ball screen and Tatum passes the ball to a teammate, that action is not recorded in usage percentage, because the usage percentage only tracks plays that you are responsible for. So how many possessions ended in you taking a shot? How many possessions ended in you taking a free throw? How many possessions ended in you, committing a turnover, divided by your total number of possessions? Because you can't control what happens once you let go of the ball, right? So that isn't factored in to your usage percentage. So if I pass the ball to you, Kaufman, and you make or miss the shot, that is recorded in your usage and not my usage. However, I was involved in the play, in the offense. So this number is being framed that the higher Tatum's usage is, the more he has the ball and things can run through Tatum. My stance is no Celtic on the team has the ball more than Tatum. No person on the team initiates offense more than Tatum. What they mean to say is we want Tatum to shoot more, because having Tatum, these plays that we see him initiate and pass to a teammate, whether that ball goes in or not, is not recorded in his usage percentage. But you could have a possession where, like in the fourth quarter last night, he takes a contested three or contested fall away, whatever, it doesn't go in. So in terms of the game, it didn't help you, but it bumps his usage percentage. So now we have these people who say, look, the Celtics blew them out and Tatum had a 32% usage percentage. You see, if he has a 30% usage percentage, they're always going to win. But that's not how it works, because they only had that high usage percentage because, if he takes one or two less shots that he missed in the fourth quarter, he's at a 30% usage, which is his season average, and the Celtics still win by 20 plus points. So it's like a false equivalency that, yes, if Tatum is shooting a lot, he's probably going to make a lot, and they're probably going to win if that happens. But that's not how they're using this stat. They're saying he needs the ball more, and usage percentage is not an indicator of how much someone has the ball. It just tells you how many of his possessions did he shoot, turn it over, or take a free throw. So when we give it to Tatum in the fourth quarter to set things up and initiate offense, every time he passes the ball and is involved in an action, that's not part of his usage. So when you say to somebody, no, Tatum has the ball, 80 times a game, the next closest is 70, and it's a point guard. The idea that the Celtics aren't giving Tatum the ball enough just is factually inaccurate. And you're using a statistic incorrectly to push a narrative that isn't even wrong. The idea that Tatum should have involvement in the offense is true. We all see it. But you can't ignore this involvement does not only mean shooting. And if you're going to use usage percentage as your way to dictate involvement, you're only factoring in shooting, which is the antithesis of this whole operation. Because when Tatum has the ball in his hands, he will always make the right play. He's going to pass to the open guy. He's going to draw the defense in. Well, if I'm giving him the ball every single time in the fourth quarter and he's making the right play and guys are either making or missing shots, I can't evaluate his having the ball by usage. And it's like, it just really makes me upset that like it's being used to cause a rift, as opposed to saying, hey, the team is good when Tatum shoots. Yes, the team is also good. Like, now people are getting mad at like Peyton Pritchard for taking an open three, or like for Derek White for taking an open three, all because it doesn't help Jayson Tatum's usage. And to me, that is just so stupid when you've seen a level of winning sustained for 2.5 years. We finally figured out a formula that unlocked this entire operation. But because he has a 30% usage as opposed to a 33% usage, all hell has to break loose, and we have to have a civil war between the two best players. It's honestly the dumbest argument we've ever had in the history of the Jays tenure, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I will say, just in response to only some of that, because there was a lot there. People may not realize, and I didn't realize till I just looked it up, that in terms of, because he took crap and for me as well about in that Toronto game when it felt like, maybe they'll come back. Maybe they'll come back. Like Jayson Tatum didn't take a shot in the entire fourth quarter.
Correct. So they look at that and they say,
no.
Oh,
That part I knew. That part I knew. The part that I didn't realize was Jayson Tatum last year averaged 19.3 shot attempts per game. That is the lowest number of field goal attempts for him on average in the last 5 years, including this year. He is shooting more this year than he did last year. Now, I realize people will put him in the MVP conversation this year, or at least were, as compared to last year when he was sort of like on the outskirts of it. So you could say that he's having a more impactful year this year than last year in many categories. I mean, the points are up, rebounds are up, assists are up, blocks are comparable, steals are up, 3-point percentage. Well, I guess that's down a little bit. But my point is, like, the shot volume is up. Like, it's all up. Did anyone say, like, Jayson Tatum was a problem last year? Were we sitting around talking about usage percentage last year? I think they were finding a way to win just fine.
And and you meant that 0 field goal fourth quarter is the perfect example because he had the ball a lot. When, there are some possessions he goes to the corner to maximize his gravity and to utilize his spacing. But if he doesn't take a shot, then none of that is recorded in his usage, right? So they look at a game like that and say, see, he only had a 28% usage and they lost. Well, that doesn't mean he's not involved in the offense. And I think that's what triggers me is they're trying to make a connection between involvement and usage, but usage doesn't include 50% of involvement, which is passing. That seems to be a pretty important statistic when we're talking about Jayson Tatum, considering he's your best passer on the team. And that's what he does as an initiator. So should there ever be a quarter where he never takes a shot? Probably not. But that's also on him to be aggressive and find a way to get a jumper. Take it to the rim. Don't be passive on certain possessions. But I think people see a quarter like that and they say, he's not even being used, because they're using a metric that doesn't quantify other ways he's being used in the quarters where he's not taking a shot. And I think that's the crux of the issue.
I'm trying to find the stat because it went around, I want to say last week or maybe this week. I don't know. They all bundle together at this point. But the number that I think people should focus more on in terms of evaluating Jayson Tatum and how this offense is performing around Tatum and their just performance in general is look at the difference between Tatum's potential assists and his actual assist number. Because that is the number that really kills me, because it's like, oh my God, Tatum had like 19 potential assists.
So it was like a 4-game. I tweeted out. It was like a 4-game stretch not too long ago. He had 34 potential assists and 13 actual assists.
Yeah, like that's the number, right? That's the only number you should all care about, is like because he's clearly initiating the offense and giving the game exactly what it needs. It's just guys are not.
But none of that is included in usage percentage. And had those guys hit, I don't know, a handful of those open looks, the Celtics probably win those games that they dropped, and none of this is an issue. So, like, that's just where it's just all of this stuff is publicly available. Like, it's free. Just Google it. And yet instead, it has to turn into some sort of usage war. And then Missoula doesn't know what the hell he's doing. And the system is flawed. And Tatum's going to demand a trade because they're not treating him like every other superstar in the NBA. It's like, what? I just like it. It just boggles my mind. It's like we're all watching the same game. We all see Tatum have the ball more than every single Celtic on the team by a wide margin. So how can you then say he doesn't have the ball enough when nobody has it more? It's like he has the 5th most touches in the entire NBA. What do we want? Like, he's obviously like, I think he only trails like Jokic, who doesn't have, like, obviously he's the only one on that team. Like, he has 12 more touches per game than SGA, who's the leading MVP candidate, right? He has more touches than Giannis. Well, like, go up and down the list. He has the ball more than all of these people. So I just can't understand how we watch that happen, yet the conclusion is, he's not being utilized and given the ball enough in their system when he is the system. He is the sun that all planets orbit around. And it's been that way for 2+ years. it sends me over the moon.
Well, and also like this wasn't really your point at all, but you acknowledged is Tatum unhappy? Are they gonna have to trade him? Like, do people not see what goes on around the rest of the NBA? To like the Jimmy Butler situation in Miami, where he openly wants out, or Joel Embiid not long ago, like calling out Philadelphia fans for the way that he is treated, like stars around the league, and we see it. This is not a new thing, like Durant or Kawhi or Kyrie Irving or Harden. Like the list goes on and on of just like disgruntled dudes that want out of their current situation. Jayson Tatum, has he ever one time in nearly a decade in Boston even hinted at any level of unhappiness with his situation or his place or where he wants to be or what he wants to achieve as a Celtic, not just in his career, but specifically in Boston? And why? This is why we can't have nice things. What are we trying to project upon this guy? Not the three of us, but people. Like I just don't understand what it is that people are looking for at a certain point. You can't win every game. You can't win every game.
Right.
You can't win. You're gonna lose. You're gonna have some losses that you should, like, I'm sure even the 73 win Warriors, or would the Bulls win 72? Like, I bet in those 10, 11 losses that those teams had, there was probably one or two they shouldn't have, at least. Like, it happens. It happens on the way to a championship. Celtics, certainly, if we were to comb through last year's schedule, it wouldn't be too difficult to find a handful of games that they should have won. That Atlanta one still rings in my brain as one that like pissed me off to no end. Didn't matter. It didn't matter. Like they won a championship. Like what are we doing? One more break. We got to tell you today's show powered by Game Time. Nothing better than going to a game live. I went to a Bentley college hockey game last night. Truly, who doesn't love going to sports? Doesn't matter what the level, who's playing, men, women, whatever. So many core memories I have as a kid revolve around going to some sporting event. And now, I took my kids last night. Going to a game, it couldn't be any easier thanks to our friends Ev over at Game Time.
Yeah, Game Time has a great feature called Game Time Picks. Makes seeing your tickets, getting your tickets for whatever you're doing, whether you see your favorite team play, you're going to a concert, a comedy show, whatever, makes it even easier. They filter out the fluff to show you only the best deals on great seats. So you don't have to waste time, again, searching through a cajillion tickets. And the best part of Game Time is how easy to tell how much money that you're saving right up front. They have your tickets labeled with a great deal, amazing deal, but obviously with this time of year, the super deal is what you're looking for. Those tickets are in the top 1% of prices based on the value of the rest of the arena or stadium or wherever you're going. In addition to that, all-in pricing. Nobody likes to see all the fees added at the end of the thing. I just want what I'm paying right away. Game Time's the best of that. You get a panoramic view from your seat, lowest price guaranteed, or you get 110% of the difference. Again, Game Time will pay you. If you find a better deal, they will pay you for the better ticket. So like they're revolutionizing the ticket industry, Kaufman, and I couldn't be happier to have them aboard here.
Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code. It is CLNS. Get $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create your account, redeem the code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
It's very funny. It's like every year, if you say, okay, how many games do you think the Celtics will win? They'll say, 60, 63, 64. It's like, okay, so you're saying they're probably going to lose anywhere between 18 and 22 games. Yeah, that'd be a really successful season. Okay. But then when they lose a game to get to that 18 to 20, all hell has to break loose. Well, it's like, hold on a second. You said that you expect the Celtics to lose around 20 times this year. So why are you getting bent out of shape when they lose a game if no team goes undefeated? And yes, there are going to be some that they shouldn't, But like, okay, there are going to be some games they win that they probably shouldn't have won. Like, that's basketball. That's what happens. Things, teams get hot. Guys go on a heater. Like, that's just sports.
They're 29-12.
Right. That's what I mean.
The mid-60s wins. If any of you out there watching or listening, watching especially, because I'm looking right into my camera, deep into your soul, if anyone has an issue with 29-18, or even generally with the, you could take issue with the way they're playing right now. It's been inconsistent. It's been a little problematic. But strategically, if you take issue with the overall strategy of the Boston Celtics that got them to a title last year and is by a comfortable margin and is sitting here right now at 29-12 with no real future concerns, F yourselves. Like, what? True, like, what do you want? Go root for the freaking Hornets.
They have a plus 9.2 point differential. They're beating teams on average by nearly double digits every night. That's extremely hard to do. And yet, I think people are struggling to separate being annoyed with how they're currently playing, right? And the product that they're putting out, and then that being a referendum on their approach, their scheme, and who they are as a team. Like, you can think that they're playing like crap right now and they're putting out a, inexcusable effort, but that does not mean their system, like you said, in the scheme is wrong. And it does not mean that they're a play-in team. They have the third best record in the league with the third best point differential in the league. Had those two other teams not been having historic season, you would be having the best record in the league. So it's like,
I'm a Patriots fan. I am not happy with where the Patriots are as an organization. But what I am happy about is at least we have the dichotomy of what 20 years of dominance and taking things for granted looked like compared to where things have been for the last handful of years, to serve as a reminder to people out there that this doesn't last forever. This is going to come down at some point. Probably sooner than later, whether because of an injury or whether because of, new ownership, whomever it winds up being, doesn't want to foot the giant bill that the current group has set up for years to come, or someone will want to go cash in elsewhere, whatever it may be. This doesn't last. Like,
exactly.
Evan and I talk about this constantly on this show. It's the only reason that we are able to survive a weekly show as one that doesn't, like Corrales go every day and like story coming out of this game, and let's look at the next one, the day by day minutia of a team. Like, that's fine. If you want that, there are places for that. This is a big picture show. And in a big picture show, you couldn't go week to week without at least every once in a while reminding people it's okay to enjoy the journey. You want to quibble and nitpick at some things along the way that are worth discussing, as we have been doing on this show, and we do every week, by all means. But
you really get the sense that who didn't live through the Rick Pitino era,
right?
Like, how am I going to get so worked up over a defending champion that's 29-12 when my entire fanhood was molded by praying they win 34 games?
Yeah, I mean, Jim O'Brien is something a little similar here. Like, you guys didn't watch Mark Blount try to right center
you haven't
in Baker
convinced
or anything
yourself
like
that Vitaly Potemko was an answer. Like,
the Celtics have more championships
struggle
than any team in NBA history, and there is still not a month that goes by in my life where at least there isn't at least like a little flicker of, man, I can't believe they missed out on Tim Duncan that year.
You know what I mean? Like that's what I mean. It's okay to be annoyed when they play like shit. We all can see it. It's undeniable, disaster when it's on your TV screen. But it's also okay to take a step back and have perspective of like, you know what? This team's still pretty freaking good. They're just, they just played poorly in this specific instance. But even them playing poorly does not compare to the hell that we have been through. And like, we finally made it through the pearly gates, and now that's still not good enough, all because of a shooting slump. It's just like, it's like, I get it. We're massholes. We want to overreact. We want to do it. But you can also have perspective and like remain on planet Earth and, not go overboard just for the dramatics or to be a doomer or whatever. Like, we're past that. They won the title. Like, I could understand if they fell short and they were doing this, but that's not what happened. They got it done. They did it. They got over the hump. So it's like, just relax. They'll figure it out. They're too good not to.
I just want to just take a minute because I know we're running out of time here and we haven't addressed this yet. And anytime that this particular stat happens, you should probably address it real quick. Just gonna throw this out there. NBA most points at age 26. Jayson Tatum 12,908. Michael Jordan 12,908. And Tatum has more games to go, so he's gonna have more points than Michael Jordan, who's the greatest to ever do it. I just want to make sure that we acknowledge the fact that Tatum is going to pass MJ, Bob McAdoo, and maybe an outside shot at Wilt Chamberlain before he turns 27. There's a
not to play devil's advocate.
But we're being fair to the numbers, though. Like Tatum's going to do it because he's going to play longer.
What's the game's
not because he's going to average more points than Jordan.
I understand. I understand that. I get it. Jordan was older. Totally understandable. He was an older guy coming out of college. I understand that.
Like how many guys in NBA history have more points than Michael Jordan?
Well, fair enough.
It's a decent number.
I'm just pointing it out. That's all. I get it. You guys are coming at me with nuance and bullshit. I understand. I'm just pointing out that Tatum last night tied Michael Jordan. That's usually a pretty good sign.
Here's a better question. He needs to about double his production, but do you think he passes Paul Pierce for the most points ever scored in TD Garden? Pierce had about 12. Yeah. Pierce had about 12,000. Tatum has about 6 and change, and Jalen has about 56 and change.
Yeah, he's going to. I don't even think that's a question. I think it's
most points in NBA history in order. As we know, LeBron, who continues to play, is the record holder by about 2,500 right now and counting. Followed by Kareem, Karl Malone, who I think a lot of people forget about in that conversation, Kobe Bryant, and then you get to Jordan.
Yeah, so it's
Durant, by the way, how old is Durant?
36. Yeah, 35? 36. Yeah, somewhere in there.
Durant is
2007 draft?
Durant's only about 2,500 behind Jordan.
Yeah, there you go. Durant's one of the best scoring forward I've ever seen. So, but I'm just again pointing it out. He's tied with Jordan. Into Greeny's point. Company. Yeah, Greeny's point.
The 10th leading scorer in NBA history is Carmelo Anthony. I don't know how many people realize that. So
I'm, as a Melo apologist,
there is nuance to this conversation, but even
I kind of like the Tatum most playoff points in NBA history before 27 more than that one, because that just tells you he wins at a high level for
in big games
consistently.
That's what I care about more than overall
in big games for sure. Just to real quick on that stat, Pierce in his TD Garden history, 12,157 points. Tatum 6,342 points.
Yeah, so he's got to double it. Pretty much.
Yeah, he'll get there.
Listen, easier said than done. I realize, because we all like to live in this world where your favorite players don't leave town. But
that's what I mean. He needs 15. He needs 15 years. He needs
to remain a Celtic.
Yeah, that's why I find that curious. Of and then I looked it up. Do you know Larry only had 11,000 and change at the old Garden? I don't think people put enough respect on Paul Pierce's name for what he did.
Oh, definitely not. People do not. People definitely
I think the
don't
reason
appreciate
people don't is because Paul Pierce does for the rest of them.
Pierce's game has not aged well with the young crowd, because they just totally forget how dominant he was back in the day, and it wasn't
12,000 points in your own building is that's an insane amount of longevity and consistency.
A lot of buckets.
Yeah.
Well, Grandy, we were talking about stat nerds. You mentioned Grandy. Grandy had the stat, last night, earlier today. It doesn't do much for me, but a lot of his stats do. This one, doesn't. But it was, I'm just pulling it up. With 20 points tonight in the win, Jaylen Brown passed Antoine Walker. Only Paul Pierce and Jayson Tatum have scored more points in the history of TD Garden. So Jaylen is
right there. Right there.
About 800 behind Tatum.
All-timers.
We're watching generational. The title secure, their numbers going up. But I think, again, take a step back and understand what you're seeing between two guys. You're lucky to get one franchise player like this, right? Mm-hmm. To nail it in consecutive drafts like that, and for both to blossom into what we're seeing, has to be a statistical anomaly. It really does. You're watching two of the greatest Celtics when it's all said and done. I think as of now, you can make the case that Tatum's already, if you project his production, like his average, he's just stays at this level for his Celtics career, if not better. I mean, he's arguably the third best Celtic of all time. And I don't even think that's a hot take.
He'll get there. Yeah.
So to even, my whole life,
if he sticks around and stays healthy,
right? That's what I mean. If he stays healthy, he'll
be the all-time leading scorer in Celtics history.
Exactly. That he'll have, because for me right now, that's Paul Pierce is at 4, right? I think this title, like, you have him ahead of Paul, I think, because his numbers are going to be better than Paul. Like, Tatum's peak has been better than Paul's peak. I think the counting numbers will be there. I think
the big thing that works for Tatum is that Paul only won 1.
Right. So I think if Tatum gets 2, he's undoubtedly number 4. I think once he gets his
doesn't.
Right, even if he doesn't. If you wanted to put him there now, you probably could if his production matches. If he gets I just think a lot of the old heads are not ready to have the conversation that Tatum is playing his way into being, a top
on the Mount Rushmore.
Yeah,
on the C's Mount Rushmore.
Like you never get, my whole life, like Paul Pierce was my favorite Celtic ever. He was my generation's Larry Bird, but I had to wait like my entire life for him to finally win a title. So it's like I never could like process what it was like to have a Larry Bird, a John Havlicek, a Bill, because I didn't know winning like that. So to now get a player that is winning at a high level and producing at an all-time level is like, please take a step back and appreciate what we are witnessing in terms of Celtics history, because there have not every day Dick Lipe tweets that Jayson Tatum has done some shit not seen since Larry Bird. Like, this is not normal what we are seeing from him. And Jalen isn't too far behind. And I just think people need to understand that it's very rare what we get to experience.
Well, listen, Greeny called the win, the dominating, throttling of the Magic, a cathartic experience. And I got to be honest, I didn't know I needed this show quite the way that I did, but this has been for me a cathartic experience.
Good.
I want to thank both of you, Dan Greenberg, again, Barstool Sports, and Evan Valenti. I am Adam Kaufman. We've gone on for a little while, but I think it's been a fun one. I think everyone out there needed it. I only hope that the Celtics don't go out, lose by 15 to the Hawks, and then you listen to this show, because
I'll come back and we'll do the Doomer version if you want.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, we'll do the side.
Choose your own adventure. Do you want the good vibes show or the bad vibe show after they lose to the Hawks? Can I just do it real quick? I got to shout out my guy Pete Rogers. If people are watching, sent me the pink lemonade Jayson Tatum jersey again via Pete Rogers. So I have the patch down here, banner 18.
Nice.
Got to shout him out. Excellent stuff. I couldn't be happier with this jersey. Fits unbelievably well. Super comfortable. Best colorway I've ever seen. The absolute legend that is Pete Rogers. We love that guy in the show. All three of us are huge fans.
He needs to be in charge of designing.
Dude, I say this all the time. He definitely needs to. Yeah, he needs to.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I guess in what he does and sort of where we're at in the world, like, it just makes the most sense to have a digital shop, a digital marketplace. But like, that dude needs a store. Like he needs like a store.
Nike needs
Nike
him.
needs to hire him.
Nike needs Pete Rogers, bro. Like, no question.
A storefront, like when you, I don't know, I haven't been to a mall in years, but like when you go into like a Foot Locker or one of those places that, assuming they still exist, you need to there needs to just be a whole freaking section of these Pete Rogers Celtics designs, because they are
heaters.
Honestly, but like
heaters.
I don't understand why they don't just use take his examples and use it as a mood board to inspire. Because looking at what you're wearing is unbelievable. His other ones, and then you compare it to what we're getting from Nike. It's like, how are these people? It almost feels intentional. Like why are we getting such disgusting alternate jerseys when it's possible to create really cool ones? I don't get it.
He's done it for 2 straight years. It's incredible.
Yeah, he's unbelievable.
Pete on the pod.
Pete needs
I can
to
work
come
on that.
pod.
Don't worry about that. That's not a problem.
Shoot Pete a note. Let's get Pete on the pod. I mean, like Ev said, this is January like Ev said, this is January basketball. I think we can take a week off from talking to Beat guys and people who cover the team and have Pete on the pod. We need to do that for sure. Pete, you listening out there? Let's have you on, bud. All right, for Greeny, for Ev, I'm Adam. Everyone, enjoy the football this weekend. I'm sure Greeny will be paying no attention to it. It may be if Arizona State was playing, but that's it.
Is there football today? There's a Celtics game at 7:00. I didn't even know.
Cyclones football and it's Celtics basketball for Greeny. We'll talk to you guys again soon.
All right, guys.